Hi everyone, welcome back to the Varlyngton Bootcamp, and today Youth Team Advices presents the lungs and respiratory system. This session was actually prepared by Mentor Kevin, but he also has something to do, so I'll be taking this session, and I hope you all enjoy it. So far we've actually covered a lot of systems, and we still have one more system to look at, and that is the nervous system. Then focus on hormones, and I hope you all are actually learning from this and seeing the beauty of biology in medicine. So today we'll be covering the introduction, anatomy of the respiratory system, lung structure and function, breathing mechanism and processes, gas exchange and oxygenation, um respiratory diseases and disorders. Oh, there's still more. As we'll cover things like asthma, other chronic conditions. We'll focus on diagnostic tests and treatment, and the conclusion. So, introduction. Okay. To the nearest mile, how long are the airways in your lungs when stretched out? This is just a warm-up question, and I'm going to give us some time to think of this before I move on. And you can also learn something new from today's question if you've actually never thought of it. Okay, so let's move on. What is the purpose of the respiratory system? Before we dive into the respiratory system, we must know that the respiratory system is a vital process that enables the body to obtain oxygen and expel carbon dioxide. And the basic function is actually breathing, and it's well understood, but there are many unusual facts, many diseases that are related to the respiratory system that many people don't know. And it's something that everyone should know, whether science or art student, because it concerns our body. And I think that the respiratory system is also very vital for human living because if the respiratory system completely stops, I'm not sure a human can be alive. So, the purpose here is actually to supply the blood with enough oxygen to keep the other systems functioning. We know that the body needs oxygen. So yes, it supplies the body with enough oxygen. And it also removes carbon dioxide from the body, which is very essential. So before we enter the anatomy of the respiratory system, some unusual facts about the respiratory system is that the lungs are the only organs that float. Due to the air filled in the alveoli, lungs are less dense than other organs and can actually float in water. And well, sneezing can spread germs up to 8 meters. Sneezing is a powerful expulsion of air that can spread germs and viruses far and wide, making it a key way that illnesses are transmitted. And like we've heard of the HMVP that's currently happening in China, but was discovered in 2001, and we have seen COVID-19. These are like respiratory diseases that can be transmitted through fluid like sneezing, coughing. So all these respiratory viral diseases are actually killing and crazy because they transmit very fast. So here in this picture, we'll just I hope you guys could identify. Okay, it's even labeled here. This is the upper tracts of the respiratory system. We can see the nose and the nasal cavity. We can see the pharynx, the larynx. We can see the trachea. We can see the bronchus, the bronchioles, the left lung, right lung, diaphragm, alveoli. Okay, so you guys can take some time to study this. It's actually very quite simple to understand and doesn't really require much things. We all know that the nose is the entrance of the as of the respiratory system. That's where we like take in the air, and it contains these small hairs we call cilia and mucous membranes that help filter the air, make it warm, humidify the air we breathe. Okay, and here's a fun fact. Do you know that like we can actually breathe through the mouth because um the epiglottis covers two tracts. One tract is leading to the digestive system and the other tract is leading to the respiratory system. So the epiglottis, we cannot use both tracts at the same time. So what it does is that the epiglottis opens and closes the digestive tract when we take in air, and when we're like eating food it goes to the digestive tract. So that's why most people actually like tell you that do not eat and talk at the same time because you could like end up choking. You're not meant to use to tract at the same time. So to prove this, try talking and breathing at the same time, or try eating and breathing from the mouth at the same time if it's possible. So we have the voice box, that's the larynx, and the larynx is a cartilaginous structure that contains the vocal cords. And we have the pharynx, throat. It's a muscular tube that connects the nose and mouth to the larynx, and it's a common pathway for food and the air. We also have, okay, I've explained nose, mouth, pharynx, larynx. We also have the trachea. The trachea is a tube that connects the larynx to the bronchi. The bronchi is two primary tubes that branch off from the trachea, one for each lung, and they further subdivide into smaller bronchioles. And these bronchioles are what we call as branchy tubes that lead to the alveoli. They contain smooth muscles that help regulate airflow. We have the lungs, the right lung, the left lung. We have the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle that separates the chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. We have the rib cages that protect the lungs, and things like the pulmonary capillaries. That the pulmonary capillaries are, let me say, tiny blood vessels that surround the alveoli. They help exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide between the lungs and the bloodstream. Okay, we for the upper tract we have the nose and nasal cavity. We have the sinuses, we have the pharynx and the larynx. While for the lower tract we have the trachea, the bronchi and bronchioles, the alveoli and diaphragm. I've already explained all this. So let's go to the lung structure and function. So the lungs, okay, I love this slide so much because you could actually see the diagrams. So it's located in the thoracic cavity, and the right lung is divided into three lobes: the superior, middle, and inferior, while the left lung is just divided into two: superior and inferior. We have the visceral pleura that covers the lung surface, and the parietal pleura. Then we have the bronchial tree, which contains the trachea, the bronchi, and the bronchos. So, what's the function of the lungs? Before I explain, what do you think is the function of the lungs? Okay, so the function of the lungs is actually meant for like gas exchange primarily. It expands and contracts during inhalation and exhalation. Like just put your hand on your chest and start breathing. It's like it moves up and down, enabling air movement. Then it also helps maintain the body's pH balance. And if you don't know, the pH is a measure of the concentration of hydrogen ions in a solution. Um, so that's for chemistry, but in terms of medicine, I think that the pH would be focused on the measure of acidity or alkalinity in the body's fluids, um, like fluids such as the blood, urine, or saliva, and it helps maintain it. It also traps dust, pathogens, and pollutants. We breathe things every day. It's not only oxygen that's in this air. So, yes, when it enters the nose, we have those hairs that actually filter the air. But the lungs also play a part in this by trapping dust that manage to escape the nose and pathogens and pollutants. And it removes small clots and air bubbles from the bloodstream. breathing mechanisms and processes. I hope you guys understood more about the um structure of the lungs, which is very important because like that's actually one of the major organs in the respiratory system. So here we're going to like go deeper, just like when we were going deeper to how food is digested. We'll be looking at the breathing processes. We have the inhalation steps. So brain signals the respiratory muscles to act. The diaphragm, which we said is a dome-shaped muscle that separates the chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. It contracts and flattens. This helps to like deflate the lungs and expand the lungs. Then muscles between the ribs that help expand and contract the chest cavities is what we call the intercostal muscles. And these external intercostal muscles lift and expand the rib cage for this process. The thoracic cavity volume increases, expanding the lungs, and then the pressure in the lungs decreases. Air flows into the lungs, filling the alveoli, and gas exchange occurs. Then, exhalation steps. The diaphragm relaxes and moves upward, as shown in the picture. External intercostal muscles relax, lowering the rib cage. Thoracic cavity volume decreases, compressing the lungs. The pressure in lungs increases above pressure outside of the body, and air flows out of the lungs and through the pathways. So, gas exchange and oxygenation. So, what is gas exchange? Gas exchange is the biological process of exchanging gases, just like take O2, take CO2 in of O2, out of CO2, that kind of thing. This is a very easy process because we have that in the lungs, oxygen diffuses from the alveoli to the blood, carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood into the alveoli, and for the purpose is that it maintains the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood. While oxygenation is the process of delivering oxygen to the blood, and in the alveoli, oxygen diffuses into the blood and binds to hemoglobin. Have you all heard of hemoglobin? Okay. So you could like just put your thoughts of hemoglobin in the chat, what you know about it. But hemoglobin is a vital protein in the red blood cells that carries oxygen from the lungs to the body's tissues and returns carbon dioxide from the tissues and back to the lungs. And its function is mainly for oxygen transport, carbon dioxide transport, regulation of pH, and anti-oxidant properties, like helping to protect the body from oxidative damage. And all this ensures sufficient oxygen levels in the bloodstream. Now, let's dive into respiratory systems diseases and disorders. I hope you all are following up with today's session. It's actually more complex than other ones, but it's very easy to understand. So, common respiratory related diseases include pneumonia, tuberculosis, influenza, sleep apnea, and I know all of you might be familiar with all these things from pneumonia, tuberculosis. I think like actually pneumonia was one of the first diseases I knew because when I went for like immunization in the card, I saw a lot of things regarding pneumonia, so I actually got familiar with this term. We also have influenza, we have sleep apnea, and I'll just take my time to explain them one by one. So, pneumonia is an infection of the lungs that can be caused by whether bacteria, virus, or fungi. And well, its symptoms are like cold related, focusing on cough, fever, chills, difficulty breathing, chest pain, fatigue, and sweating. Fatigue is tiredness. Then we have tuberculosis, which is a bacterial infection caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis that primarily affects the lungs. We have things like cough, fever, night sweats, weight loss, fatigue, and chest pain. Then we have influenza, which is a viral infection, like fever, cough, sore throat, all these things relate to influenza. Then we have sleep apnea, which is a condition characterized by pauses in breathing during sleep. And well, this can lead to severe lifestyle changes, but it can actually be solved through things like therapy, oral appliances, and surgery. We also have more, which includes cystic fibrosis, silicosis, pulmonary embolism, acute bronchitis. Now, let's focus on asthma, COPD, and other chronic conditions. So, asthma is caused by chronic inflammation and narrowing of airways, and some of the symptoms include wheezing, shortness of breath, and coughing. And while we have COPD, it's caused by a long-term exposure to irritants, symptoms, and coughing, breathing, shortness of breath. While other chronic conditions, we have chronic bronchitis, we have the pulmonary hypertension, we have allergic rhinitis, that's hay fever, we have emphysema, we have alpha 1 antitrypsin deficiency. So let's focus on diagnostic tests and treatments, and I hope you all are following. So for diagnostic tests, we have physical examination from a healthcare provider. We have chest X-ray, computed tomography scan, pulmonary function test (PFTs), and other treatments, medications, obviously, lifestyle modifications. Sometimes it's the things we do that actually affect our body systems, not just the respiratory system. We have to like focus on lifestyle changes, whether is reducing the way we eat, focusing on eating more nutrients based food, exercising, adequate sleep, those kind of things. Then we have respiratory therapy. We have like therapies like the CPAP therapy, that's continuous positive air pressure therapy. And well, surgery can come in, which is necessary to like treat some respiratory disorders. So for this particular respiratory system, our assignment is focusing on research, and we will research and write on a respiratory disease, whether asthma, pneumonia, influenza, cough, anyone. Then we have like a funny sticker here. That's a meme. And I hope you all enjoyed today's session. Thank you so much for listening. And this presentation template was created by blah 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 blah. It includes things like Flaticon and FreePic. Those are the credits. And I hope you enjoyed today's session. Thank you so much.